Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. Yes, we're back in the pub. It's nearing Christmas. Pato's got his coat on. It's not even that cold. As you can see, because Chris Hamill, the real northern man.
Patrick Van Motson.
Yes, t-shirt weather today.
Comfortable.
Very comfortable. But let's get straight on with the questions. The first one comes from Hunger CS on Twitter. And he says, has Mauro Icardi proved himself to be one of, if not the best, striker in the world this season? It's a big claim.
It is giving Lewandowski's form this calendar year as well.
Form.
I think Lewandowski has 51 goals in 52 games. He's actually equalled Messi's haul for the calendar year. Edison Cavani, 24 goals in 25 games in all competitions. Yeah. But he is 5 years younger than both of them, isn't he? If you're going to spend 100, he turns 25 in February, I think. If you're going to spend £100 million on a player at this point, it may as well be an in-form Mauro Icardi. I think he's already got 15 goals in 14 Serie A appearances this season.
Yeah.
I think one of only 3 Inter Milan strikers to have scored 15 goals in 3 consecutive seasons as well. So he's been building up to this point where he's hitting like really elite figures. I took a look at some of his shot numbers as well. 3.4 shots per game isn't exactly elite, is it, Pato? Ronaldo and Messi will be doing double that. But he's kind of on a par with Suarez at the moment, although Suarez is not the greatest of form, but 2.5 of them coming from inside the box, mate. And that is where he's extremely deadly, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's right at finishing in the box.
He's always been like that as a striker.
Yeah.
He's not. There are strikers who take absolutely tons of shots, like you say, Ronaldo, Messi, Harry Kane's actually kind of one of those as well. And then there are strikers who take relatively few shots, but from extremely good areas.
Yeah.
So people in that category would be Lacazette and particularly Diego Costa. Diego Costa has often been under 3 shots a game for his career, but because of locations, he scores a lot of goals. Same with Mauro Icardi. Like, his decision making in the final third is amazing. I think he's 5'11", but he's really, really good in the air, and he's surprisingly creative. Like, his best season, I think, overall for Inter was last season. He got 24 goals and 8 assists. 8 assists for a centre forward in what was a pretty dysfunctional Inter Milan side is really very impressive. And he's one of those guys who is just a natural finisher. He's more of a Batistuta, than a Dybala. Dybala's in the Messi mould. Icardi's in the Batistuta mould. He's the guy who's going to get quality shots, and he's going to finish them again and again.
124 goal involvements in 180 career games.
It's impressive.
It's gone under the radar.
When you consider those career games are like up to the age of 24.
Yeah, and he's been in an Inter Milan team that's hardly been smashing it either. He's not been in a Juventus side or a Real Madrid side. Another thing that I think is very impressive about him is that he scores more than one goal in one game. Like, he doubles up his tally. That's really impressive. I think Harry Kane's really good at that. I think he's already this season scored two or more goals in a single game 7 times, which is really, really impressive.
So it's just really decisive.
So I think that he is due a big move. Whether somebody's going to pay that €100 million buyout clause, I believe it is, I'm not too sure about. I don't know, there's something about him where I feel like somebody would have taken a risk on him already.
There are a couple of problems, right? Firstly is that he's like famously a dickhead.
Yeah.
Like, that's a real issue. Like, he's notoriously like difficult to deal with. He's got a bad temperament. He obviously had that bust up with the Inter Ultras.
His wife is his agent.
There's that issue as well, and she's famously incompetent also. So there's that, but also it's that he seems to just want to stay at Inter. Like, recently there was a news story where he said, "I will stay at Inter forever unless they kick me out," and that actually, given his behaviour, that's a relatively big unless,
But where would he go? Like, Real Madrid's an obvious option with the aging Karim Benzema, aging Cristiano Ronaldo now. Could he replace those two, or is that output of his?
He's not that type of player, is he?
I actually think he would prosper in the Premier League. Doesn't mind a physical battle, as Pato said, throws himself about, and he's sort of very predatory in the same sense that Sergio Aguero is.
I mean, the trouble is, though, that all of the big teams, you would say, have their starting strikers.
Yeah.
You'd say Tottenham, Kane, Lukaku, United, Aguero, Jesus at City, Lacazette at Arsenal.
And none of them have like a straight up finisher. Like,
every
striker that the top 6 sides have, like, they can create their own chances. They can hold up the ball, they can drop in and let other players kind of like get the opportunities. Icardi can do that, but he's less that sort of player. He'd flourish much more in a team with an absolutely kind of creative powerhouse midfield behind
Seeing
him.
a lot of front threes in the Premier League, aren't we, at the moment? I'm not sure if he'd necessarily be the player to
I think he's
facilitate
scored a lot of
that
goals
system.
in a team like Man City, though, with the creative abilities of Sane, Sterling.
I think any half-decent player.
I also, though, I just wonder whether if Liverpool were to lose one of their front three this season to Real Madrid, I wonder whether Liverpool might have a look at him. Because I feel they have a lot of creative talent. You think Lallana, Coutinho, if he was to leave, then you've still got Firmino, Mane, Salah. If you had, I know that front three is fantastic this season, but I just wonder whether he's going to be able to keep them together, and I think he'd be a good sign.
I think Icardi would score more goals than Firmino, but arguably the players around him might score fewer goals as a result.
Yeah, I completely agree. The build-up play would be hampered.
The place that would make most sense for me is Juventus. I mean, when Higuain goes, I know that people have talked about Dybala going to 9, but in a way I feel like that's a little bit of a restriction of what Dybala's great at. I think you always want to play Dybala as a second striker, and of course they are international teammates to an extent. I mean, like Icardi's got 4 caps.
Yeah.
But that would be interesting if he had that guy behind him who was more of a creator. You know, he alongside someone like an Antoine Griezmann, he'd be incredible as well.
That moves me on nicely to my next point, in that a sort of breakout performance at the World Cup in Russia could facilitate a move. I spoke to a lot of Argentina fans who are at their wits' end with Pepita. Higuain doesn't have a great relationship with them because they maybe unfairly label him as a bit of a bottler in big games, and that sort of reputation has started to precede him. I'm not sure what his overall record is.
And then would you start him over Aguero?
It seems somewhat unfair, but if he maintains this form, I think Javier Zanetti came out very recently and said if he maintains this form in Serie A, he's got to start. And at 24, George Sampaoli may want to shape the future of that attack around him. So.
But what do you guys at home think? Will Icardi move for £100 million? What kind of role will he play for Argentina at the World Cup next year? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Our next question comes from Vettel Alum on Twitter. And he says, who is the best player in the Premier League that is not starting for his current club?
Great question.
It's a great question. I'm going to kick us off. I'm going to go with Son Heung-min. I don't think he's necessarily the most talented in terms of individual ability, but he's incredibly consistent. He's scores a lot of goals. I think got 21 goals in all competitions last season for Spurs. This season he's got 3 and 4 Champions League games.
The great thing about him is that he can shield the responsibility when Harry Kane gets injured as well, right? And
exactly. He can play as well as an out-and-out striker. He can play as a 10. He can play wide. He never moans. I never hear him in the press saying I need more game time. He's only 25 still as well, which when I saw that I was thinking he was like sort of 28, 29 on the periphery. But there just doesn't seem to be a starting place, and it is frustrating for him. I'm sure he must sit on the sideline and think, what more do I have to do to be included in this team? But equally, if you look at, say Christian Eriksen was to leave this summer for a Barcelona or a Real Madrid, would you buy or would you just promote Son? I'd potentially just promote Son.
But Son's not a creator in the way Eriksen is. He's much more of a forward, whereas Eriksen can play central midfield.
He can play that role.
I think there are very few players who can do that.
Son would be great in a 4-3-3 out wide. I mean, he's even been deployed at wing back, hasn't he, at certain points this season when Pochettino's tried to shoehorn him into the side. But I agree, not a central creator, but really good at coming in from a wide position and sort of getting his shot off.
He's good running in behind as well. He's underrated running in behind, very good with his head. He doesn't have the ability of maybe like Anthony Martial, which I'm sure somebody's going to talk about, who's got incredible output as well. But if I was to have a squad, I'd love to have Heung-min Son there.
No,
I
completely agree. He's your dream backup striker.
Yeah, absolute dream.
What about you, mate?
I mean, there are actually quite a few of those players this season. There's quite a lot of depth around the top flight. So Son comes in and he always scores for Spurs. Giroud comes in, always scores for Arsenal. But of all of them, I think probably the most talented is Anthony Martial.
Yeah, incredible talent.
Anthony Martial, I think he's contributing to goal every 68 minutes this season in the Premier League, which is absolutely nuts. But I think if he, say you dropped him into Man City in exchange for Sterling or Sané, I think you'd see pretty similar numbers to what they're putting up at the moment. And so the fact he's doing it in a slightly more restricted attacking system is even more impressive. Like, he can play as a centre forward as well. In his first season, he did that. He was incredibly young. Showed composure that I thought was absolutely staggering for somebody as young as he was.
Incredible,
amazing touch, really good turn of speed.
His close control is his best stat.
There's just moments where you think, he is a cut above it.
He I remember specifically the semi-final against Everton when it was Anthony Martial. He could just beat anyone on the pitch. It was that sort of like moment.
He's unplayable at
much better
times.
than everybody else.
But when you watch other really talented young players, sometimes you see them do something stupid. Like even Kingsley Coman, who's a fantastic prospect. Like you see him make bad decisions. Anthony Martial has has sang-froid. Like
it's incredible.
So it's just cold-blooded. Like he's never worried, and he never has. There's something in ice hockey which is called the kind of panic threshold.
Yeah.
So when people run towards you and they get past a certain point, they're that close to you, and a player panics and doesn't know what to do. Players like David Silva doesn't have that, and he doesn't have that.
Very low panic threshold.
I think the one negative that Tony has against his name is his off-the-ball work leaves a lot to be desired. He is criminal sometimes.
But is it worth it? Is it a worthwhile sacrifice if his attacking output is that good?
Yeah, I'd want to leave him high.
When I say off the ball, I don't just mean his defensive output. I mean, sometimes his runs are not good enough.
Okay.
Doesn't work particularly well with an extremely attacking proper left back. It's part of the reason I think Luke Shaw doesn't get much game time is that one of Tony's best attributes is the ability to take you on the outside or he can take you on the inside. When you have a really attacking left back like Luke Shaw that's constantly overlapping, he cuts out that sort of ability to take you down the line. Whereas Ashley Young, because he likes to come in a lot as well, it kind of gives that space to Anthony Martial.
Okay.
So I would like to see him get more game time, but I think his off-the-ball inconsistencies sometimes hamper him. Whereas Rashford is nowhere near as good technically, but is a lot better off the ball, both offensively and defensively, with his runs in behind, the way he stretches teams.
Okay.
That's pretty much the reason I think that he weighs them up and starts 1 week and 1 the next.
I think they're two great examples. Maybe Bernardo Silva for Manchester City.
Yeah,
I think he got 8 goals, 9 assists in 30 odd appearances for Monaco last season. Really looked like he was blossoming after that move from Benfica, was it? Potentially Adam Lallana. I think 8 goals, 7 assists in just 27 starts last season. And while Liverpool haven't necessarily missed his output because they have an extremely deadly front three at the moment, I think they miss on occasion his guile, his ability to unlock a sitting defence. He's a very intelligent player. He's a very unique
Englishman.
He's very un-English, is what I was about to say.
Really balanced. Yeah, he's
he
great.
seems to, and he will Cruyff turn on a sixpence. He loves a Cruyff turn, doesn't he?
But where does he play for Liverpool? I don't see where he starts in that team.
Well, Liverpool played
started
4-4-2
by
against
now,
Moscow in the Champions League this week, and actually they had to because of an injury. I can't remember who it was to. I was watching the various games, and actually they still look really good. And Mo Salah can play further out wide. I mean, you still want him as a winger in a front three, but he can play
Salah,
right mid.
Mane, Firmino, and Coutinho. Where does he fit into that midfield?
I mean, Coutinho can drop deep, but then do you sacrifice his current output? I think he's contributed to 14 goals in his last 15 Liverpool games. Or similar numbers to that.
And then do you trust Jordan Henderson to be the only central midfielder?
But it's a good problem to have. Liverpool have a lot of disposable midfielders, I'd say. In Emre Can, good player, but again, not a unique skill set. Wijnaldum, decent box-to-box player, powerful runner. Nowhere near as technically as astute as... Yeah, and Naby Keita's arriving as well. So I think it's a good problem for Jurgen Klopp to have, but not a great time for Adam Lallana to be out. And then you've got your boy Henrik Mkhitaryan, 1 goal, 5 assists in 10 games still, although he's gone completely off the boil, but we've seen that happen with Man United players under Mourinho. Who knows, maybe a month out will do him some good, but I'd potentially go with Martial.
Yeah, so there we have it. Martial, Heung-min Son. We've got loads of other suggestions. Who's your suggestions for the best player who's not starting? Let us know, as we say at the end of every question, down there. Our final question comes from @Bray on Twitter, who says, what makes Pep Guardiola the best manager in the world, and why is it taking this long for Man City to be this good? 2 questions. Let's answer the first one first. What makes him the best?
Go on then, I'll interject here. What I really like about Pep, one of the aspects, because I think he's an extremely well-rounded coach, so does most of the world, is his ability to plug gaps, his ability to see a solution where other managers might only see limitations. So take the Benjamin Mendy situation this season.
Yeah.
His most expensive signing, out for 9 months. What does he do? Brings Fabian Delph back into the fold, makes him into a very competent left back. Not only a competent left back as well, someone who can come inside, act as a defensive midfielder
Yeah.
when they're on the attack. He's made him very tactically astute. I think he makes players better, and that's why players love playing for him. He just unlocks their potential. When I was reading that Bayern Munich book, he did it with the youngster Højbjerg when he deployed him at right back in the cup final against Dortmund, and he still played really well. Using Philip Lahm as a central midfielder, deploying Javi Martinez back in central defence, and just the way he's managed his players this season. He's dealt with that rota of stars extremely well, hasn't he? And they all seem to want to play for him. Bernardo Silva, see, it's expensive. When people say it's just he's spent vast sums of money, and this goes on to address the second part of the question a little bit. Why has it taken Manchester City this long? He spent vast sums of money, but 50 million was on Mendy, who's injured. 40 odd million was on Bernardo Silva, who obviously doesn't trust in his system as of yet. And 25 of that was on Danilo, who is an auxiliary right back, central midfielder.
Left back.
So really, he's the best job he's done is with players that were already there.
Yeah.
Raheem Sterling, Leroy Sané, Gabriel
Raheem.
Jesus obviously arrived in January. He trusts youngsters and he brings the best out of them, and he obviously defines, explains to them what he wants from them in a very clear sense that maybe other managers don't articulate to their players at the top. What about you boys? Because I'm getting lost in my thoughts here a little bit.
I think my favourite thing about Pep is his attacking football. I really like a manager who's brave enough to kind of play balls to the wall. We're going to win this game no matter what. And I don't think there's actually that many managers that risk it anymore in that way. Jose certainly doesn't. I'm not sure Conte does at times. I don't think Zidane does it a lot. Whereas you look at Pep and, for instance, let's say the West Ham game, for example, he knew that they were under the cosh at 1-0, but wasn't afraid to took Danilo off, moved Fabian Delph to left back, and then just played a midfield two of David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, and then a front four of Sane, Sterling, Aguero, and Jesus. I don't know whether there's that many other managers in the world that would have risked that and gone for that attacking output, and it paid off as it has done multiple times. Also, I think a lot of people when he first joined kind of levelled at him. Well, let's see how good he is as a coach, by seeing how much he improves Raheem Sterling. And Raheem Sterling is now one of the best players in the league. I think he's actually contributed to 35% of Manchester City's goals this season.
That's a lot of goals.
Incredible amount, because they score for fun as well. I think he's won them more points than any other player in the league, 14 points. Yeah. And that ability to improve a player that was talented but extremely inconsistent cannot be underrated. So I'd say his attacking ability and his improvement of inconsistent players is my favourite thing.
Investment in players.
Yeah, trust as well.
Yeah.
I think the main thing with Pep is that he just always is involved in self-evaluation. As a general rule, managers do what they do and they continue to do it. It's very rare that a manager will completely change their way of playing. But Pep played without wingers when he was at Barcelona. Then wingers became pretty much the central part of his game at Bayern Munich, and that's something he's carried on to Man City. His teams prevent opposition from completing passes at a higher rate than pretty much any team on record. Yeah. But he basically doesn't have any of the major flaws that a lot of other managers have. He's got a great eye for talent. He's great at developing players. He's creative. He's brave with a lot of his selections. He's great at in-game adjustments. When you think about other managers, so for instance, Klopp, really good at setting up a team tactically to start with, but actually not great at in-game adjustments and not all that creative. Jose Mourinho, not all that creative and not brave enough sometimes. Arsene Wenger, good at developing players and actually quite good at in-game adjustments, but not great at pretty much everything else. There are a lot of managers who have one or two of these things, but almost no managers are great at all of them. And weirdly, he's a guy who's clearly very confident, but he also has a certain amount of humility, as in I think he says, this hasn't worked, I've got this wrong.
Yeah, the self-deprecation.
And he's willing to seek out experts. I think we've all read at least some of Pep Confidential. Yeah. And when he goes and he talks to handball coaches and rugby coaches,
chess players,
because he wants to learn about the way space works.
And I think his chief advisor is one of Barcelona's
Water
great
polo.
water polo
Yeah,
players.
Estiarte. But it's kind of what you were saying about West Ham. You know, like in that game, you think, oh right, okay, we're kind of under the cosh defensively. So you think, right, well, we should concentrate on defence for a bit. But instead, what he does is say, we're going to make a proactive move that forces them to deal with their defence instead. And that sort of thinking is brave, and it could go horribly wrong. But I love that about Pep. I think Pep is simultaneously an idealist and a functionalist.
That's a really good point. He lets his experiences change him, doesn't it? He says halfway through Pep Confidential that I came here with a very clear philosophy. I see very clearly now that I have to embrace some of the German footballing identity and ethos, and that's when he reverted to overloading one side, playing the ball to the other, and hammering in crosses and picking up on second chances. So yeah, he kind of takes the best, doesn't he?
He's doing that in the Premier
and he
as well.
creates an amalgamation of all
he
that
said that
good
the other day.
shit.
Like he said that about De Bruyne. He said, "Oh well, normally what I do in the past is, you know, like when we're up a goal, we'd have kind of safe, conservative possession. That's what even in the days of Busquets and Xavi and Iniesta." And he said, "Well, Kevin De Bruyne isn't going to do that. He's just going to run up and down all day." He said he has the quality to do it, but he refuses to do it. And he was like, "That's the Premier League." And when you watch that league all the time, it's hard for you to see that. But he sees it and he thinks, you know what, I can be a better, kind of more rounded Pep Guardiola, and it's amazing.
You could never imagine him in comparison to, say, someone like Carlo Ancelotti. Carlo Ancelotti's played the 4-3-3 his entire career, hasn't he, pretty much, or the 4-2-3-1. Whereas Pep Guardiola is constantly evolving. Now, that I don't mean to be unfair on Carlo Ancelotti there, but because generally Italian managers are pragmatists as well. But yeah, that constant evolution definitely gives him the edge. Whether he can sustain that over a long period of time, because he gives so much of himself to the game is another question. So what about the second part of the question then?
Why is it taking them so long to be this good? Well,
I reject the premise of this question.
Yeah, because the simple answer is he's only been there one season, and it probably does take a season of transition to get used to Pep's
I think it's a point about Man City generally, though, right? Is it not?
I'd say look who's gone out this season: Zabaleta, Kelechi Iheanacho, Nolito, Kolarov, Navas, Clichy, Sanya.
There you go.
All good players, but ageing players who aren't necessarily going to win titles. There had to be an evolution at the club as well. And we were talking about before we went on camera how a club, well, in my opinion, I'm not sure what your thoughts are, how you have to build a pedigree of winning, a winning mentality at a club, and with young players. I think inevitably that takes a couple of years to bed in. Now that might be sort of a blanket excuse and it misses out some intricacies, but Manchester City don't have a long history of winning. Like their fans don't demand it. You know, the board, the hierarchy, everyone's fairly new, 2 or 3 years. But I think they're way ahead of schedule in my opinion. What do you reckon, Pat?
I mean, I sort of disagree with this idea. Yeah, that Man City. Oh, why is it taking them this long to be this good? This because they've got the best manager and probably the best squad they've ever had. But they've been pretty damn good. They've been good enough to win the league twice. Yeah. They were good enough to win the league over an Alex Ferguson
Champions
side.
League semi-final.
They were good enough to win the league ahead of that Luis Suarez-powered Liverpool team, which was unbelievable. They scored over 100 goals that season. So, I mean, they've been good enough to win the league. Now, I think that we are seeing them reach another level. But basically, yeah, it's because Guardiola has been there a year. He's bedded in, and I don't know, if they're like this for the duration of his time there, then nobody's going to get a sniff at them in the league. Yeah,
scary stuff. What do you think of Manchester City? And is Pep Guardiola the best manager in the world? Vote up in the poll right now. Before you do anything else, we've got a massive event happening this afternoon. Hamster, what's going on?
Oh, mate. We are going live from Sky Studios previewing Liverpool versus Everton and Manchester United versus Manchester City. One of the standout weekends of the Premier League. Yeah.
Oh, buzzing for that. It's in conjunction with NowTV as well, so big thanks to them. What's happening on 90+1, Pato?
Well, in keeping with what you guys are doing that afternoon, it's Manchester City. So find out everything about the club courtesy of a super fan who's been through the hard times, Kieran Carlin.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll catch you later.
Bye.